Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, Powers Taken Not Given, joined as always by John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics. How are things going today, man?
As I was just saying, very busy. If you work in marketing, I don't suggest being a political commentator because Black Friday and elections are at the same fucking time. So that is not the best for my schedule. But we are soldiering on, TJ. What do we got to talk about today?
Well, I have something to discuss, but I wanted to throw out that it's pretty monstrous that elections take place right before Thanksgiving. So, you meet up with a family and we all got some insane family members with crazy ideas. So that's not going to be fun for a lot of you folks. I don't look forward to that.
It is very interesting. That's actually I like that we do it. Just maximize the possible family fights and disagreements. That's what Thanksgiving is all about for a lot of people. You gotta come to that table prepared. And if you want to know how to kick your weird uncle's ass in a debate at Thanksgiving, well, you've come to the right place, people.
That's true. That is kind of our thing. I always, how people say you shouldn't talk about politics at like Thanksgiving and stuff. How do you avoid that? I really don't know. I mean, there's only so many topics that you can discuss with your family members. You can reminisce and catch up, and then sports, school, your job. It would seem really unnatural if politics never came up at all. At least for people I know.
Yeah, I don't know. My family is relatively homogenous, and we kind of kicked out that one uncle for reasons that aren't to do with politics, but for reasons that definitely inform his politics. So it's a little peaceful at my Thanksgiving table, but I know that I am a fortunate one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I figure I talk about it more than if they aren't around. You can just shit talk them. It'd be pretty fun. But I don't know. That's just me, though. But the thing I don't know if you saw the title of the episode, but had you seen, was it last week, I think, at the end of last week, we had the UFO hearings. We have more UFO hearings.
I literally heard nothing about this, TJ. I'm shocked. It completely missed my my algorithm. So enlighten me. What is going on with the UFOs?
All right. Well, I mean, it's not. It's the exact same thing as last year. The exact same thing as last year, where you had all these cranks who came up before Congress saying that they had been involved. So there was a program I wrote down. It's called the Advanced Aerospace Threat ID Program, AATIP. And this program was started in 2007, 2012. And the purpose of this program was to investigate UFOs, which are now they're not called UFOs anymore by the government. They're not called unidentified flying objects. They're called, I think, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs. Same thing, like a distinction without a difference. And they're supposed to investigate these and see what's going on. Of course, when this came out, it was like, the government admits that aliens are real. No, it doesn't. It hasn't admitted aliens are real. It says that they're, investigating these strange phenomena. And the department closed after 12 years. But there's a guy named Luis Elizondo who claims he was the head of this program. He did work at the Pentagon. We do know this much about him. And he claims he was the head of this program. We don't have any real evidence for it or anything like that. But even taking him at his word, he went along with a few other people and testified before Congress that, yes, actually, we have had interactions with aliens. And I'm here to blow the lid off all of this shit and tell everyone that the government's hiding the aliens. And I'm here to tell Congress. And I just want to play a couple clips from his time testifying in front of Congress. And I want you to, he's being questioned by Missouri Republican Representative Burleson, is his name. And the questions he asks are very logical questions for someone claiming that they have proof that aliens exist. And I just want you to note the elusive and evasive manner, form that his answers take.
So if that material exists today, who's in possession?
Sir, I wouldn't be able to have that conversation in an open hearing. We'd probably have to have that.
Okay, my question to you then is, if we were in a secure setting, if we were in a SCIF.
Important information, this guy's no longer with the government. He's retired. He's not in the Pentagon anymore. He's a civilian.
Would you be able to provide or get access to something, whether it's visuals or material that we could put our hands on, or biologics, that would convince me, that would show me that we have non-human origins?
Sir, that decision would not be mine. that would be to the gatekeeper still in the U.S. government.
And who would we, so if you were in our shoes, where would you go from here? How would you get that information? Where, a lot of times we just don't know who to ask because we don't know where to go next. So if you were in our shoes, where would you go?
Well, I prefer to answer that question in a closed session. However, we established Aero for that very purpose. And unfortunately, under its previous leadership, it failed. So one would hope that they would have the authorities necessary to do that. Let's hope that this new iteration of leadership will be successful.
Okay, so John, do you feel confident this man's claims that aliens do exist and that they live among us?
So here's my thing, TJ. I definitely would err on the side of aliens. Well, at least do not live among us. I definitely err on the side of aliens exist somewhere out there. Seems statistically impossible that they wouldn't. But here's my thing, because it's one of those conspiracy theories that almost has a horseshoe theory about it. Because on one side, if aliens did exist and the government was covering it up, like, first of all, you're like, why would they do that? Wouldn't it be beneficial for all of the countries of the world to work together to combat this existential threat? There would be so much leverage that the government could get out of that. Why would they hide it? So, like, also, it would take a shocking level of competence from the U.S. government to be able to hide that so thoroughly. And every whistleblower that comes out about it kind of acts like this guy. They're like, well, I could tell you, blah, 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 because they also have incentive to, claim they have information because there's money in that. That all being said, if aliens did exist and did walk among us, they might have the competence to hide themselves. And so I can't go out there and say that the U.S. government is aware of their existence, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did.
All right. So yes, well, first I want to talk about Xander's. Not a fan of the clickbait title. This is actually an important issue. I know I'm not being sarcastic. The truth is out there. We need to get to the bottom of this with the alien spacecraft and stuff. But yeah, so I agree pretty much entirely with what you said, that I think that it's essentially mathematically impossible that there are trillions of galaxies out there and that the alien life doesn't exist in some form or many forms throughout the universe. Absolutely. I would bet anything on that. However, I don't believe that if they have made it here, which they could have, who knows? We don't know. If they made it here, I don't believe that either, like you said, the United States government, and by the way, people always just talk about the U.S. government, but I'm glad you pointed out the other. Why would it just be the United States government that knows? Like, why would the United States government know and have a conspiracy and cooperation that would take thousands of people crossing multiple decades in several countries, and no one provides any evidence for it at all?
Yeah, there's never been any shred of evidence. Like, not even the smallest bit of just hardcore smoking gun evidence. There's no way.
Zero.
Decades that all of those thousands of people have been able to keep the secret, unless the aliens are working with them and are way smarter than us. That's a possibility. And
that goes to the second right here. So, like, the aliens would have to do, for this to be true, the aliens would have to take one of three courses of action. Only one makes sense. We'll go to the two that don't first. First, the aliens mastered faster than light travel. The aliens could found a way to cross star systems.
Which is a major big if, TJ. Huge if.
Yeah. Now, look, we don't know of a way to do that. We have mathematical ways to travel at warp speed, but no way to produce that much energy. But let's say they figured it out. Not outside the bound of possibility that some species figured this out. They figured out how to cross galaxies, how to travel to star systems. And you're telling me they crashed in fucking Nevada? I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't think that's true. I don't think that happened. And two, the other one is they traveled here. They made contact with the government for reasons, like no particular reason. Like, if you went to like an ant colony, you would treat the queen differently, but you wouldn't hide yourself from the other ants. No, why would you bother doing something like that? I mean, what, you think they give a shit like who this particular species of hairless ape is? They don't care. And the only one that does make sense is if they travel, they have this technology, and we just don't see them anywhere, because you wouldn't. If they have the technology, if they have the technology to do that, I don't think there's any chance we're spotting them at all. But of course, that's still a zero evidence proposition. There's no way for you to actually back any of that up. And I'm like, you telling me Donald Trump knows aliens exist, and he did.
And kids kept it a secret. Are you? Yeah, you're right. There's no way. There's no way Donald Trump would not want to be the president that unleashed the alien files. There's zero chance of that being possible.
Zero chance. It's just like, and then when you bring this up to people, I love talking to the UFO conspiracy theorists on this, because you know what they say. It's like, the president is just a figurehead. The president, they get a new one every 4 years. They don't really tell that guy anything. Okay, who do they tell? Who are the people that know? You say the government knows this. Who? Give me an department. Give me a representative. Give me someone that knows the answer to this, because then it's boogeyman territory at that point. So, oh, they know, but they aren't telling us. And another thing people like to say is that it's not. Yeah, I know exactly. Red Scare Claire said the deep state knows exactly. They can't tell you a person. They also like to say that, well, the rich people know, like the rich and the powerful know. Like how do the rich people, how do they find the aliens? So it just also, oh, go ahead.
No, continue. I didn't have anything.
And also, same thing with Donald Trump. You're telling me Elon fucking Musk, the richest man on earth, like with his weird obsession with science and space, wouldn't jump at the opportunity to go down in history as the person who made the greatest discovery in history, or told people about the greatest discovery in history, that, oh yeah, we're not alone. We have travelers and visitors from the stars. And then they said, well, Elon Musk is new money. You need that old. Now you're getting into weird, like Illuminati, like oddly anti-Semitic conspiracies. Start saying shit like that. So I don't know. I just can't believe anyone buys this. Like, once again, I'm positive. I'm fairly confident alien life does exist. Don't believe for a second it's being hidden from us by the Department of Agriculture. I just don't buy it.
And the other thing about alien life existing is the chance that they would even risk contact with us is so minuscule. Mm-hmm. Because if you really get into the theory of alien life existing, you come to some very quick conclusions that it takes much, much longer, assuming our understanding of physics is accurate enough. It takes way longer to communicate with another species, like cross galaxies, than it would be to simply destroy them. And if you have the ability to locate species across galaxies, it's kind of in your incentive to destroy them before they get to the point where they can destroy you. If aliens did exist and they found us, we would only be at their mercy as willing servants to them as gods, if they so chose to let us live. Otherwise, we would just start feeling it get a little bit hot before microwaves exploded our brains that were sent 20,000 years ago. That is how the speed limit of the universe works. Of course, maybe they're so smart that they've broken the speed limit of the universe, in which case we're not fucking finding them.
It's done.
They can hide themselves. And there's no incentive for them to communicate with us. They are of a level of knowledge so far greater than us that it would be like us asking the monkeys how they get their fucking fruit. There's nothing we can provide to them. It's kind of insane. But at the same time, it's fun. It's a fun conspiracy theory. There's no stakes to it. It's not like anti-vaxxers. No, God, you're killing children. It's just a fun one. I don't mind it.
It just bothers me because, it's like with religion and shit. It's like what's wrong with your brain? How can, for example, like you said, the aliens. Best case scenario is they're just curious. They say, "Oh, look, a new species or a new planet. Let's look at it. Let's observe it. Let's run tests and see what we can find out." That's honestly and without bothering them, because we don't want to. That's the best possible case scenario of this. And that'd be a pretty lucky one, honestly, if they just didn't care about us at all outside of scientific discovery. But this idea that aliens showed up to primitive man and said, okay, we're going to build stone triangles. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to land in Egypt and build a bunch of stone pyramids. Why? It doesn't make any sense. There's a couple more clips from this guy I want to play, because this guy's a blast. So this one, the last one was
before we jump to that. I just wanted to mention, since Mark asked, what in the hell are you guys live? Do you not keep a schedule? Mark, we're working on the schedule. We apologize for the early start. We changed to Tuesdays. I mistakenly scheduled myself for an interview with Natalie, our good friend of the show, at 7:30 on a Tuesday before we switched to Tuesdays. And so I was like, hey, let's move this up. So in the future, it will most likely be 6:30.
Still 6:30, yeah.
With few exceptions. But we've had a rocky couple weeks here, TJ, to be fair.
True. All right. So the last one was about alien materials. This one is about alien biologics. They love this word in these hearings, I've noticed.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there's biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I gotta say too, like I feel sorry for this fucking guy. Like in this committee, he's like, I am a goddamn congressman in the United States, and I'm sitting here asking about alien biologics because I got assigned to this dumbass committee. All right, what's he gonna say here?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that biologics have been recovered. Again, my focus was more nuts and bolts, looking at the physical aspects of these phenomenon, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities. So I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you a whole lot of value in that simply because I don't have the expertise.
But was anything described as that we have possession of bodies?
Yes.
We have is it multiple types of creatures, or
sir, I couldn't answer that. I can tell you anecdotally that it was discussed quite a bit when I was at the Pentagon. The problem is the supposed collection of these biological samples occurred before my time. In fact, before I was even born.
And was this part of the Lockheed Martin discussion, or was this the biologics is a completely separate?
Separate yet related.
Okay.
This guy loves being like cool and mysterious. It was separate, but it was related. Just so you know, that's all I'm permitted to say because I'm a civilian. He's not even. He's not in the government. He is not in the United States government. He's a civilian. Say, well, you got to ask the people in charge. I mean, what am I here for?
TJ, I think I've cracked the code on this. I think
Okay.
I actually know what happened.
All right, let's go.
This guy is the dude at work who's an idiot.
Yep.
And the rest of the people at work just toy with and lie to them and make them believe things, and it's funny, and they laugh about it in the lunchroom. I might actually be convinced that this guy genuinely thinks that his coworkers were having these discussions about the alien bodies they've recovered that he does not have access to or the expertise to handle. But they just told him they did, and he genuinely still to this day believes them. That would actually be a fairly Occam's razor explanation to this entire hearing.
I do like that. I do like that because, well, the thing is though, if that's the case, why publicly put your face to this when you have nothing other than people told me some stuff, I read some stuff. I'm sure it's there.
Because think about who that guy is in your workplace or your friend group.
Yeah.
And think about what decision-making process they would use. And you can't apply this logical reasoning to it. It's just, oh God, aliens exist. What do I do about it? I'm going to go to the government. I'm like, that's it.
The government that already knows. The government that already knows that
Jeffrey from accounting is working with these bodies. I don't know how he got access to them, but I know they exist.
All right. So this one, they're asking him about communication with the aliens.
Has anyone made contact?
Sir, I'm sorry. Could you specify?
Has there been any, to your knowledge, any communication with a non-human life form?
So the term communication is a bit of a trick word because there's verbal communication like we're having now. The problem is you also have nonverbal communication. And so I would say definitively yes, but from a nonverbal meaning, when a Russian reconnaissance aircraft comes into U.S. airspace, we scramble 2 F-22s, and we are certainly communicating intent and capability. I think the same goes with this. We have these things that are being observed over controlled U.S. airspace. And they're not really doing a good job hiding themselves. They're making it pretty obvious they have the ability to even interfere with our nuclear equities and our nuclear readiness.
All right. My favorite part, I love that you laughed because I laughed too when he says, well, it depends what you mean by communication. I mean, communication is a tricky word. I was like, okay, this guy's just putting on a fucking show. This guy knows what he's doing.
It's a classic example of someone saying a lot of words to say nothing to sound smart when they don't know anything.
Yes, I actually wrote down sophistry. I wrote that down. And now, for those who don't know, sophistry is exactly what John said. It's like, if you're good at it, you can say a whole lot without saying anything. And we do it all the time. Sometimes you get wrapped up, you got something to say, and you're not sure how to do it, or you're just forced to speak extemporaneously. But when someone's bad at sophistry, it's very easy to catch. And this guy's like, well, when you say communicate or contact, there's different ways. There's verbal. Okay, buddy, we know. You don't got to explain what verbal communication is to us. But yeah, it's just a bunch of bloviation. And Red Scare.
To give an example of what that is, it's when you didn't do the assigned reading at class and your teacher calls on you. If you're good at sophistry, your teacher doesn't know you didn't do the assigned reading. If you're bad at sophistry, everyone in that class knows that you didn't do the assigned reading and is internally laughing at you.
Yes.
And you know which people in your class were which. And I say the same thing about Donald Trump all the time. It is so obviously clear when he knows nothing about what he's talking about and just words are coming out of his mouth to try and distract from that fact. This guy's worse at it than Donald Trump. He's
terrible. He's terrible. At least Trump is funny. Red Scare Claire says, are my tax dollars really paying for this? Yes. This is what. So last year, do you remember this coming out last year, John? They did the same thing last year with these UAP hearings, and they were everywhere because people kept making jokes and stuff saying, I don't care if the aliens are real. I can't afford to pay my rent and everything. And I just don't know how anyone takes this shit seriously after seeing this. This is your king. This is the guy who comes forward to Congress to blow the lid open off all this. And this is the last one they ask him about the big question, the reverse engineering.
Is the United States government and our contractors, are they pulling technology from this? Or they're reverse engineering this?
Sir, as I previously stated, please forgive me, I am not authorized to discuss specifics about crash retrievals. I signed documentation with the U.S. government. What I can say was, after a very thorough review process by the Pentagon, what I wrote about, and that was my limit, unfortunately.
All right, there we go. A bunch of nothing. The guy has nothing to say, and just over and over again. Well, I know this is true, but I got nothing for you. I can't show you any of it, and that's what really bothers me the most about all this. Is like John said, a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. It's just that we have proof. We just can't show it to you. They are hiding it from you. Trust me on this, bro. I can't give a good reason as to why this would be the case. I can't tell you why we're afraid of all this, but yeah, I don't know. It's insane.
And also just like, you signed documentation saying you couldn't say, get the fuck out of here. If you actually know without a doubt and have evidence that alien life exists and you brought it forward in a public congressional hearing, you would be protected by so many fucking whistleblower laws. Don't even get me started. Like that would be fucking relevant unless you're saying we have a Men in Black scenario where this sector of the government is so far advanced they would just vaporize you on the spot. Like there's no in between here. So unless that's your claim, I just don't believe that you find this NDA so fucking hand tying that you can't say anything.
Well, and it's a self-contradictory statement that I signed documents saying I wouldn't talk about this while he is talking about this. Because I have a hard time believing these documents that he signed says, yeah, you can tell people that aliens are real and that their bodies exist in the United States and we have their spacecraft and we've been reverse engineering this stuff, but you can't go into specifics. There's no way it said that. What it would have said is you can't talk about this.
Oddly specific NDA.
Right? The whole thing we're trying to cover up. You can talk about it all you want, but you can't go into detail about it. I don't know.
All right, TJ, though, in fairness, if I wanted people to laugh about UFO conspiracies that actually were real, that is exactly what I would do. I would send people out into the world to claim that UFOs exist, but not allow them to share the evidence. That is something I would do. So to be fair to the conspiracy theorists, that one checks out for me.
That could be true. However, it is not evidence. And so that's all I ask these folks is come back when you have some, like John said, any evidence at all, a spacecraft, a body, anything. And also, speaking of the bodies, it's always very suspicious to me that whenever people say they saw aliens, how oddly human-like they are, that they walk on two legs, they have 2 legs, 2 arms, a head, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, a lot like human beings. And look at this way. So we know how we are biologically related to every creature on Earth. Like we all descend from a common ancestor. So yeah, sure, like we're related to, chimps and gorillas and bonobos, but you're also related to fruit flies and bananas and bacteria. Like you share DNA with all of those. Like a banana is probably like, I don't know, 40% of the same DNA that you have. Look how fucking different a banana is from you when it has 40% of your DNA. An alien would have 0%. Zero. And it's like, tell me, it's like, why would you expect them to look just like us? There's no, and it's funny looking at old, when life first started developing on planet Earth. And if you look at ancient life from, I don't know, 500 million years ago or something, it's hard to tell if what you're looking at is an animal or a plant. It's that fucking weird. They hadn't even developed bilateral symmetry yet. And for you conservatives out there, what bilateral symmetry means is that your left side looks a lot like your right side. Like if you cut most animals down the middle, they kind of mirror images of each other. They didn't even have that 500 million years ago. And those are creatures related to you. Like an alien life form, you may not be able to recognize at all. And what, John? I saw you Googled some. Would you look at?
Oh, no, I just Googled. So first of all, I want to say, I also had the same thought that we would compare this to a banana. I have no idea why. And also, when I started typing what percentage of DNA do humans share, and it auto-filled with a banana. So I don't know if there was like some textbook in our like 8th grade biology classes that discussed the amount of DNA we share with bananas, and we're just unconsciously remembering the same thing. But I don't know. But it's 50%.
It's 50%. 50% with a fucking banana, man. And that's what I'm getting here is that, like, think about like how it would be trying to communicate with this species, right? Like dolphins are incredibly smart. Chimps are incredibly smart. You can communicate with a dolphin. You can communicate with a chimp. You can't have a conversation with one. You can't. And so to expect that aliens would just magically be able to talk to us out of nowhere in English, by the way, like I don't see how people believe this. And think about how weird life on the planet that we already know is. Like plants eat light, right? That's pretty fucking weird. Like bats see with their ears. It's just like, that's just stuff that's already here on the planet we evolved on. Like you running across an alien.
Don't get me started on that deep sea bullshit. Like those things don't even make sense. Honestly, TJ, my like biggest like aliens are real, like this would be it conspiracy theory is not that they're from outer space. It's that they're down in the depths of the ocean, that there's an entire alternate society existing down there that neither of us can contact. That I also have no evidence for, but honestly seems a little more likely than that someone broke the light barrier and was able to travel that fast. That's just like physically seems that would come first.
Yeah, because who fucking knows, right? And that's what it comes to. It's like there's a lot of cool things because they wouldn't need to be aliens, like John said. They could be Earth creatures from the bottom of the ocean. They could be ghosts. They could be demons. They could be time travelers. They could be extra dimensional. Who knows, right? And it's just like
the extra dimensional one is the like they exist in a 5D space.
Yeah,
and so they can see us, but we can't see them. Like that one I always go at. Like, have you ever considered if you tried to explain just anything about your life to like an ancient Roman, right? Someone who was alive just 2,000 years ago. It would be impossible. They would think that you're talking about like some alien society, you know,
you would be
2,000 years. That's how long it will take us to reach like the nearest galaxy. Like just imagine how much technological advancement would happen just in the time that it would take aliens to get here. You know, like it would be unfathomable to us. And so there are infinite possibilities that exist out there that we cannot even contemplate right now. And you're telling me that, oh yeah, it's a mechanical machine that crash landed into the fucking desert of Nevada? Hell no. Not a chance in the world.
No chance whatsoever. Yeah. And it's like, people don't realize how far away things are in space. Like, I don't know, why would you? I mean, you don't have any practical reason to know. But
it's like how Europeans think of America. They just don't get it.
Exactly, right? And like you show them the Fahrenheit system and they kind of fall apart and everything. And it's like the closest star to us, I believe, is 4 light years away. And a light year is the distance light travels in 1 year. Light travels 186,000 miles a second. That is trillions of miles. It takes light 4 years to get there. Okay. And we can't come close to the speed of light. That is the first star that you can run across. And the Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years across. That's just our galaxy. That's before you even get to the other ones. And it's I don't know. I don't know what's out there. The extra dimensional stuff is pretty cool. I don't know if you've ever seen the example of It's called Flat World, where you as a three-dimensional being try to talk to a second-dimensional creature, and what that would be like. It'd be impossible. You would just confuse it. And so, sure, a fourth or fifth dimensional creature could exist, and it would give us weird shit. But there's no proof. There's no evidence. And so people just, talking cool speculation, but people that are dogmatic on this shit, the government's definitely doing it. They definitely have the capacity and the motivation and the competency to do something like this. So the last 70 years, no, get the fuck out of here.
I'm glad we're taking some time to decompress and talk about alien conspiracy theories. I needed this. Wanted to address two things from Mark.
Sure.
One, he says, John, the progressive wing needs podcasts like the right wing. You need to be a force. John, also, let's randomly change our time. Mark, you say this, and it's funny, and I give you that it's funny, but it is actually a crystal clear example of my point. I work a full-time job. TJ works a full-time job. Basically, every guest that comes on the show works a full-time job. If I had just not even like Daily Wire money, not multi-million-dollar investments, if I could pay my salary and my healthcare and focus on this full-time, you know what? We'd have a regular show every day at the same time, consistent uploads, tons of content, but we don't. Because we do this in our free time, and it takes, honestly, about as much work as I do in my full-time job. Like it's never going to happen if we don't have the institutional investment into our platforms. And that is exactly the point that I make.
So about that, John. So I heard an interesting thing about this thing where one of the lessons learned from this is that the right-wing media sphere is powerful. It's united. You will not find say what you want about right-wing content creators, and wherever they differ, they all were in lockstep Donald Trump all the way. You never heard them shit on Trump. You never heard them back down when people challenged him. And so we're like, okay, we need something like this on with the left. And there's 2 points that I heard that are kind of good against this. Not against it, but observations. Is that first, we do kind of have left-wing Joe Rogans. We kind of do. Like we have Hassan, and we got like Chapo Trap House or Destiny, like real like edgy guys. Like their thing is saying offensive shit. They're not as big as Joe Rogan, obviously, but they're pretty much on the same track. But here's the problem. The problem is that if you're the Democratic Party, you have a right-wing media sphere that does nothing but constantly shit on Democrats. You also have a left-wing media sphere that does nothing but shit on, well, not nothing, but with shits on Democrats. So you would need to like really push forward the people who are jazzed about voting for Democrats, not people who are reluctantly doing it like us. But imagine, like you mentioned, like Pod Save America. That's never going to be Joe Rogan. It's not. It's boring. It's not all that interesting. And also, I meant to say this last week. The name doesn't make sense. The name Pod Save America bothers me because the pun is God Save America, which is not an expression. No one says God Save America. You say God Save the Queen or God Bless America, but Pod Save America is very weird. I don't know. So
Pod Bless America would also honestly make more sense.
It makes a lot more sense. Than Pod Save America. I don't know why it's called that. It's not an expression that's rooted in anything.
So there's a little bit there I'm going to disagree with, but I want to elaborate on. I don't think that Hassan or Destiny or name whatever large left-wing influencer there is the left-wing Joe Rogan, because they're more the left-wing Ben Shapiro. Okay. I think Joe Rogan serves a particularly different purpose.
True.
Than Ben Shapiro or...
He's not strictly political.
Exactly. We need, and we sort of have that. We have influence in media. The problem is it's largely uncool because it's
Pod Save America.
But Pod Save America is completely political. The thing that the right has done, and people are like, oh, the right is this united party. No, they're fucking not. And I think that is the wrong lesson to take from this. Yes, they do have institutional organization, especially within their independent media sphere, but they literally ate their own fucking Speaker of the House. Like, this is not, there is severe conflict within the Republican Party to this day between the outsiders and the establishment. The thing that is different is that in 2016, when Donald Trump won the presidency, the Republican Party decided to give the outsiders a seat at the table. And they started running the party from there. The establishment still had their power, but they allowed the fringe right to start to take over the party because Donald Trump was the president. And that is exactly what the left needs to do. The left needs to allow the Bernies, the squads, all of them to start going to the forefront of the Democratic Party. There are a ton, there's going to be conflict. There's still going to be people who are on the Democratic Party who don't like it in either direction. But the problem is right now is that Republicans can genuinely claim to be anti-establishment.
Yep.
Because even within their own party, they are. The people running the party are the anti-establishment people. Yes, that does consist of multiple billionaires who are cutting taxes for the rich. And it's insane to say they're like anti-establishment draining the swamp. But within the Republican Party, they are not Mitch fucking McConnell. They don't like Mitch McConnell. They don't like Mitt Romney. They are fighting against that machine, right? And on the left, I feel like the establishment is afraid to give up that power. They're afraid to give a real seat at the table to independent media, to DSAs, to whatever you want to say. They're afraid to give up that power because once they do, they can't get it back. And I think that's what we're seeing right now is them struggling to latch onto that because once they give up that power, they no longer control the entire machine and it can eat them alive. And they would rather lose than lose their power.
Yeah. And you mentioning that the Republicans can now claim to be anti-establishment. It's true. And I would always make fun of them for this because they're like, conservatives are the new punk rock and everything. But conservatives are anti-establishment in the way that, the establishment says washing your hands is a good idea, right? Like wash your hands before you eat. That's a good idea. The establishment says the Gilded Age was actually a poor time economically in the United States. Republicans aren't bound by any of that. They just aren't. And the best way you can see this is Donald Trump, honestly, who's playing with house money. He's not running for re-election. He's a lame duck now. And like the nominations, did we even talk about Pete Hegseth? The Fox News guy who's going to be nominated for the Secretary of State. And I brought him up on purpose because when I mentioned the hand washing thing, I wasn't joking. Like Pete Hegseth, I remember him saying this, that he thinks.
I haven't heard this.
Okay, hold on. This is all right, here we go.
I don't think I've washed my hands for 10 years. Really, I don't really wash my hands.
Someone help me!
No, I inoculate myself. It's just not, germs are not a real thing. I can't see them, therefore they're not real.
So you're becoming immune to all of the
exactly.
bacteria.
I can't get sick.
So he did play it like he's joking. I'm sure he's washed his hands sometime in the last 10 years, and him saying that I can't see it, so it must not be real. That actually is how a lot of these folks think. I've met people who said they don't, well, not met, but I've heard people say how they don't shower. They think showering is actually bad for you. And there is some evidence like showering maybe too much is bad for your skin. People's like, no, I don't take a shower. I don't. I think that it's bad. And this like Pete Hegseth is a religious Christian fundamentalist psycho. He does have a lot of ancient or medieval beliefs that he holds on to. These are the folks that are going to be in power. That's what's going on here.
What? Because I've heard the women shouldn't be in the military one.
Mm-hmm.
What other ancient medieval beliefs does he hold?
He has a bunch of tattoos. He has like
is he the guy with the fucking cross?
The cross. Yep. And he has Deus Vult written on his arm, which is I think God wills it. I think is what Deus Vult means in Latin, which is another white supremacist talking point and everything. He wants to, well, he's all on board with abolishing the Department of Education, which is just a standard Republican talking point now. And he wants to Christianize our education system. Yeah. Oh, another guy, the guy in Oklahoma with the Trump Bibles. Did you see that?
I saw something about the Trump Bibles, but I didn't read into it. So enlighten me.
Yeah. So the superintendent for the state of Oklahoma, the state superintendent, he wrote or sponsored this legislation or supported this legislation that said that every school in Oklahoma, every public school needs to have a copy of the Bible in the school. And not already odd at first. And what does a math class need a copy of Bible in the school for? I don't know. And he also, when the bill came out, it said that these Bibles needed to needed to include the Old and New Testament, as well as the Constitution, as well as the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. There's exactly one Bible that fits that description, and that's the Trump Bible that came out. And so, yeah, that's the folks we're dealing with right now. It's going to be a.
I've said this before, TJ, but it is insane to me that people will sit there and say that they're for the First Amendment,
right,
freedom of speech, and just be like, nah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Because one thing Republicans won't do is attack that shit. Like
Nope.
on the left, we would fucking eat that kind of shit. I don't know what the equivalency would be.
I can't imagine.
If we like required, I don't even know. Like
there
I
isn't one.
The fucking Communist Manifesto to be taught in schools. Like I don't fucking know, but like we would attack that. We'd be like, no, I actually don't think that should be mandatory reading in every elementary school. I don't know. Like I would stand against that. I haven't seen a single Republican politician be like, no, that is wrong. I haven't even seen Elon fucking Musk, who's Mr. Free Speech guy,
yeah,
be like, hey, it's really fucking wrong that we are requiring the Bible to be taught as a religious text in schools. It just is kind of insane to me. That's why it's like just so disingenuous.
It is. And like this guy, well, I'll play the clip here. This is, I forget, I think his name is Ryan Walters. Watching that name be totally wrong, just way off. I just don't know. That's the name that comes to mind, but let me see.
I'm excited to announce today that Oklahoma is the first state to bring the Bible back to the classroom. Today, we purchased over 500 Bibles that will be in the AP government classrooms across the state. Bible just like this. We have the Bible, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. These are foundational documents in our nation's history. Our kids have to understand the role the Bible played in influencing American history. It's very clear that the radical left has driven the Bible out of the classroom, which leads to a lack of understanding of American history. We will not stop until we brought the Bible back to every classroom in the state.
All right. So that's his very reasonable, very good.
That's also very interesting. I just want to point out they bought 500 Bibles.
Yeah.
Every classroom in the state. The math ain't math in here, bro.
Well, that would make sense because interestingly enough, Oklahoma ranks 49th in education in this great nation of ours. So maybe math ain't his strong point after all. I'm sure the Bible's going to take care of that for him.
Also, it's been a little while since I took AP Gov, but I definitely passed that test, and nowhere in it, in that core curriculum, did it say that the Bible is a foundational text for the U.S. government. That is just absurdly false. And it's insane. It's genuinely insane from the perspective of an educator that you would attach the Bible to an AP Gov class. Completely ahistorical and inaccurate.
Yeah, what they'll tell you, because I went to a Christian school, and so we did have like Bible taught in government class and everything, is that one thing they like to say, this comes from a guy named David Barton, who's this right-wing fascist historian, but he likes to say that the book of Deuteronomy is the most quoted text in the Constitution. Nonsense. I don't know. He just made it up out of nowhere. And they like to say that our laws are based on Christian principles. And it's really flimsy how they get away with this. Because the Bible says murder is wrong. So obviously our laws are based on Christian principle. I'd like someone to point in the Bible where God gave the people of Israel the right to vote. Please point that out to me. Please tell me where God said that. Please tell me where God said you are free to practice any religion you want. Because peruse the Old Testament sometime. If you practice the wrong religion, the punishment was death. If you picked up sticks on the wrong day, the punishment was death. If you ate shellfish or pork, the punishment was death. There's nothing similar to the laws of the Bible and the laws of the United States, even in 1789, unless you pick out a few certain ones. Like, oh, look, stealing was wrong. It's wrong here, too. That's as flimsy this all is.
It is kind of just... the religion in schools thing, it's one of those... I can talk to a lot of Republicans. I can talk to you about free speech. I can talk to you about whatever. But if you're going to fucking tell me that the Bible needs to be in schools, I don't think you're arguing good faith. There's no reasoning for that at all that could ever be acceptable. I feel like a secular country is just a baseline thing we need to all agree on. And anyone who says otherwise is so disingenuous because the only way that makes sense is if you discriminate against people based on their religion. That's by default, that is what it is doing. Because I hate to break it to you, there are people who aren't Christians in fucking Oklahoma. So why aren't there fucking religious texts in there too? And what about the atheists, who are most of them? Especially the children. All of the children are atheists.
Yeah.
They're fucking children. They don't have the capacity to believe in God. You know, like it's insanity.
So, and what's interesting, all right, what I'm going to clarify that where John and I are coming from is that John and I don't have a problem with teaching about the Bible in school.
Oh, no, I know. I learned a lot. I read a ton of the Bible in school.
You should.
Like, very academic.
Yes, there is a ton to learn. The Bible is like, I don't know, people like to say they don't take the Bible literally, but they take it seriously. The Bible is like one of the most influential documents in Western society, in the world, honestly. Like, you can't have a discussion about human beings and on planet Earth without talking about the Bible at some point. And that's fine. Talk about the fact that, yeah, this book was written X number of years ago. Here's the influence it had on culture and society and moving forward. Here's the influence it has on modern day life. But like, think about if you name, especially men, this works. If you name like 10 men, half of them are going to have names that come from the Bible. Like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Thomas, Philip, James, Stephen, like all the shit is from the Bible. That's fine. But
TJ, both your names from the Bible?
Neither. My name's from the Bible.
Really?
Neither.
Okay.
Yeah. Tony Jr. Tony Lee. Yeah. Neither is from the Bible. What's your middle name?
Andrew.
Oh, both your names are from the Bible. Yeah. Look at that. Both of them. Yeah. So, the Bible is incredibly influential that way. But once you start saying that, okay, not only does this book have historical significance, that it has not as much as they pretend it does when they say that it actually crafted our government. Once you start saying, and this is real, and you need to follow it, and our nation will collapse if we don't rally around this as a symbol, that's when you run into a problem. Because like John said, this can only go one of two ways. And with this religious freedom thing, if your religious freedom to you means we can teach the Bible in school, fine. That means you have to teach every religion in school as equally valid. You have to do it. And like the Church of Satan does this a lot. Whenever people try to put like Christian iconography in public schools, they're like, well, you have to do Satanist iconography too. Here's our statue of Baphomet, put it in front of the school to show how absurd it is. That's one way you could do it. Or the school is secular. Those are the only two ways you can get around this without actually discriminating against people. And one's a hell of a lot more practical than the other.
Yeah. And Ben says that Ben is from the Bible too. That is true. So is Rachel.
So, yeah.
So there you go. The Free Will and Nomad says, hello, everyone. I haven't seen the Free Will and Nomad before, so welcome to our show. This is our Q&A show where we try and answer questions, but mostly get sidetracked. But if you have any questions for us, please let us know.
Free Will and Nomad, I saw him on a live I did last week. He is a Catholic. I know that much. And I told him that we prefer our nomads to be a little more uptight. You know, we can't let these nomads just run all over the place and do whatever they want. But
Free will and nomads.
I know, right? There's no fucking standards and rules with nomads these days.
No honor among nomads nowadays.
Yeah, it's It is interesting looking at the Bible names because it's shocking how many of them come from Elizabeth's another name comes from the Bible, Mary, Martha, Joshua, like Jesus' name. For those of you who don't know, Jesus' name in Aramaic would have been pronounced Yeshua. That's what his friends and family would have called him. Jesus is the Greek version of the name Yeshua, but the English version of Yeshua is Joshua. So like about a couple billion people around the world worship a guy named Josh Christ. That's what's going on right now, and I find that to be pretty funny. What isn't Nomad Guy's profile AI though? Yeah, it does seem AI, but there's no crime against that.
Yeah, that could be an AI image of him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it could just be an AI image. You think it's cool? It's a fucking profile picture. I don't
Yeah. He talked about his childhood growing up Catholic and how his Catholic church was really cool and chill, and he doesn't seem like an AI guy, like saying ridiculous shit or whatever.
So TJ, Mark asked an interesting question. I kind of want to address it because we haven't talked too much about this because we started this show kind of after this went down. But Mark asks, Trump is looking to bring charges on officers involved in the Afghanistan pullout. I don't see this as helpful. My Marine friend says people died and there needs to be accountability. Your thoughts? Now, before I go to yours, because yours are, default to yours being more expertise based than mine. But my thoughts on the whole Afghanistan thing was it's kind of a clusterfuck. I'm glad we pulled out. Of all the clusterfucks that the U.S. have ever been involved in, while people died, it would probably had a much smaller kill count than many others. And fear mongering about it is much ado about nothing. I'm glad we're the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
However, does your opinion differ?
Not really. No. This is whenever the pull out of Afghanistan. So look, listen, Trump preached a big game about pulling out of Afghanistan. He said it all the time back in 2016, how this war is stupid, which he was right, it was. But whenever it came time to actually pull out of Afghanistan, what Trump did is say, okay, here's my timeline. Here's my deal with the Taliban. We're going to release all these captives back to the Taliban. We're going to let them take over the government because they pretty much already had. Like, the Taliban had more land in 2016 than it had in 2003. We were not gaining any ground there. And so Trump said, but I'm not going to pull them out until after the election, which leads me to believe that Trump would have never pulled out of Afghanistan. And the reason he didn't, because you saw what happened to Biden. Biden never recovered from pulling out of Afghanistan, which
that is so true, TJ.
Never recovered.
That is when his approval rating dipped, and it never recovered.
Nope. And Trump and his advisors, hey, listen, you pull out Afghanistan, people say they want it, but people don't like seeing America embarrassed on the national stage. So Trump said, okay, well, we'll kick the can down the road. He was never going to do it. I can't prove it. It's a tautology, but he was never going to pull out Afghanistan. Biden did. I give him credit for that. And it was never going to be smooth. There's no easy way or no, bloodless is the wrong word, but a conflict-free way to get out of a conflict like that.
TJ, I want you to elaborate on that point, because that's the point that I come back to and I don't quite understand, because it feels like to me, if we are leaving the area and we're leaving all of these nice goodies for the Taliban, like, it feels like we could have negotiated a seamless withdrawal where we just give them everything they want. Which is basically what we did, and they just let us go. And I didn't understand why it couldn't have been. I still to this day don't understand why it couldn't have been done better.
Yeah, it's because the Taliban, the United States, the negotiations we did with them, that was all smooth. There was no problem there. Like, the problem with giving it, like, the optics looked bad of letting the fucking Taliban take over the nation. People didn't like that, but like with the bombing that killed the 13 Marines during the pullout and everything, that wasn't the Taliban. That was a branch of ISIS that did that, because as long as the United States, the ISIS wasn't a friend of the Taliban either. And so it was kind of an enemy of the enemy is my friend thing. And so they wanted to kind of like frame the Taliban in doing this and disrupt the United States pullout to get more conflict, because that's what they were going for there. So as long as you had different factions working around it, if it was just the U.S. and the Taliban, it would have been a lot smoother. But you still would have had the issue that was the other parts of the optics that, oh, the fucking Taliban's taking over, and now they're kicking women out of schools, and they're doing forced marriages again. It's like that. You've allowed Afghanistan to revert back to the Stone Age. That's going to look pretty bad too. So even if it was no conflict or no violence, like what happened, it still would have looked pretty bad on Biden's part. But the way I see it is, you gotta look at it. Why were we there? Why were we in Afghanistan in the first place? Like, ostensibly, we were there because Afghanistan allowed for the training of militants that led to the destruction of the Twin Towers and terrorist attacks and all that. It's okay, we're going to go in there and clean up everything, make sure they can't do that anymore. That was 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago, and we're still there losing land to the Taliban. So you'd have to tell me, if you think pulling out of Afghanistan was a bad idea, when could we declare victory in Afghanistan? We weren't going to beat the Taliban. We've been there 20 years, no luck at all. So I don't think it would be turned around with another 20 more years and trillions more dollars.
Yeah. So that makes sense to me. And I feel like with a lot of military things, there are, especially on the right, there are people who claim that our military spending is out of control, or we shouldn't be involved in yada, yada, yada. But for whatever reason, TJ, they never actually do it. The Pentagon failed its 7th audit this week.
Hey, way to go. Lucky number 7.
Trillions of dollars unaccounted for. And I'm going to be hammering this point over and over and over again whenever a Republican wants to talk to me about government fucking efficiency. I'm going to point right over there and be like, how come Trump and Elon haven't fucking touched this? Because it is one of the most clear and obvious examples of government waste, to the point where, like, the military itself will often say, hey, guys, we don't need this fucking boat. It's completely useless. But thanks for giving us $10 billion worth of it anyway. Like, and this happens all the time.
Yep.
And it's just, if they don't touch that, I'm sorry, the rest of the conversation is a non-starter for me. Because if you are going to tell me you need to cut fucking food stamps in this name of government efficiency, but you're not going to touch the fucking $17 billion plane that the military says it doesn't even need, I don't take you fucking seriously. I'm sorry, bro. We can work together. I will work together with you to cut down on government waste. And I will give you all of the reasons why food stamps shouldn't be on that list from a pure efficiency perspective, because they have a positive fucking ROI. But that plane doesn't. And if you're not going to touch that plane, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, the military is just like any other organization that is granted funds. When I was in the Army, at the end of every fiscal year, we're in the middle of September, everyone would meet together. Every unit did this. You all met together and they said, okay, we were given this amount of money for the year. We still have, $300,000 left over. We need to spend it on something. You didn't have to. Like, no one forced you to spend all the money. But if you didn't, you get less money next year. So that no one wanted that. And the military is the exact same way. And you brought up the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. I saw this tweet earlier. I don't know if anyone can read it, but it says, this is someone called Wall Street Mav, some probably sock puppet account for Elon Musk. And it says DOGE won't be able to cut enough to make a difference unless they are willing to cut entitlements. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are about $3.9 trillion. Interest on the debt was $1.1 trillion. Everything else in the budget was another $2 trillion. And it's like the budget won't be able to be hurt or cut unless we go into deficit or to entitlements. And Elon Musk responded, "You don't yet appreciate how much waste, fraud, and abuse there is in entitlements. It is beyond what you could possibly imagine." So this was today. Elon Musk coming out pretty much saying, yeah, Social Security, Medicare, we're all over. We got to cut that shit because that's the only way to put a dent into government spending. So yeah, way to go, guys. Take the money from the folks who absolutely don't need it.
And that is going to, this is the thing, TJ, and I've said this before. Republicans are screaming that they have a mandate to rule. No, they fucking don't. The vast majority of people who voted for Donald Trump do not know what he plans to do. They don't. They're low information voters. Mm-hmm. If he starts cutting Medicare and Social Security, well, he's fucked. People are going to revolt about that. And if he doesn't do it, well, he's kind of put himself in a rock and a hard place because his high information supporters who run the fucking propaganda for him are going to be pissed about that. And it's a real tricky situation, which is why I do think there is a reasonable chance we end up getting 2016 to 2020, but a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Because of things like that. He can't fucking touch Social Security. He can't. It is political fucking poison.
It is. And Donald Trump knows this.
Donald Trump knows this. So, like, what's he gonna do? He's
bitch. He's gonna whine.
He's gonna bitch and whine. Exactly. So I don't know. It could. It's one of the glimmers of hope.
And before we close out here, I want to. Red Scare Claire made a great point. LOL, entitlements, but not for people like him. It is really fucking rich for Elon Musk to talk about how the government's giving away too much money to people. Like, Elon Musk wouldn't be Elon Musk without government subsidies. It's just like, how much is Elon Musk subsidized by the government a year? I wonder.
I will say, I will give a tiny bit of credit to Elon Musk. He has said that, I don't need the subsidies for EVs anymore, which might be true. I think he's planning to fucking dump Tesla at some point. But he doesn't need them for fucking SpaceX. I'll tell you that, TJ. And that's honestly where he makes a lot of his actual revenue nowadays, straight up from the government.
Well, I gotta tell you, it's real easy to say, I don't need government subsidies anymore, or I don't need government subsidies when you've been granted. Oh shit! Of course, I pulled the LA Times article up here, but it's paywalled. But it was. Yeah, it was said that Elon Musk was given $4.9 billion for, I think it was for SpaceX, I think is what this was. I don't know, $3.1 billion to SpaceX. Maybe the other 1.8 was to Tesla or whatever. The guy was handed $5 billion and he has the balls to say, well, I don't need them anymore. Yeah, no shit. Of course you don't. I wouldn't either at that point.
Real quick, I want to address the last question here. Freewheel and Nomad says, I must ask why no one on the left is talking about how the uncommitted left embarrassed itself, screaming Genocide Joe all year and begging Biden on CNN. Why is no one on the left talking about this? Freewheel, I'm going to say, I don't know where on the left you're getting your information from, but this is all people fucking talk about. Like, I don't know. I've been getting screamed at by the fucking establishment libs constantly about this. And the thing is, I don't see how we embarrassed ourselves. We were proven fucking right. He's like, I don't even understand. Like,
I think he's referring to the president of, I think it was like the Michigan Uncommitted Party movement or something. And he came out and he's begging for, like, he was personally saying, Joe Biden, you got to help us now. That did look a little, but he's right. He's right. It's like, dude, this, oh, sorry, Johnny, I got to go. But the uncommitted people were correct that, you know how it's like you could have chosen death or dishonor and you've got both. That's essentially what happened to the Democrats. That, yeah, maybe if the Democrats had come out and said, no, or Biden came out and said, we're stopping the armaments to Israel, maybe there would have been a backlash from people who really supported Israel and you would have lost the election anyway. Maybe, I don't know. But you didn't do it. And you lost, and you're going to go down in history as the people who let the genocide continue for no reason at all. And it's yeah, that's where they're. Wait, I'm talking about the majority report and others. I don't know.
I don't watch majority reports. I don't know. But I can tell you that there's plenty of discussion about this on the left.
Yeah, it is all we talk about. You're right.
Continue to follow to subscribe to the Left Wing if you want to hear more discussion about it, because we talk about it. Probably, I mean, it's been a little less since election season has kind of really dominated a lot of the discourse. But before that, we were literally talking about Gaza and Israel every single week.
Like since October 9th,
we made a decision to stop talking about it as the last topic of the show because it was so depressing and we didn't want to end on that note. So trust me, we'll be continuing to talk about it. Thank you, TJ. I do got to get going.
All right.
Thank you to our wonderful audience. We'll be back on Thursday at 6:30, Mark, with special guests. The guy who I
Superman Todd, I'm pretty sure is next week.
Oh, is it Superman Todd?
I think so. Oh, I'll have to check. Maybe not.
You might have double booked this week. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'll check.
We'll talk about that coming up here. But thank you guys. Like and subscribe. Love you.
Later, folks.